Welcome to the Spinning Our Gears podcast. As a reminder, the issues, views, and opinions discussed on the podcast are those of the hosts and their guests and do not reflect that of any department, agency, city, municipality, state, or country. All characters and individuals discussed on the podcast should be considered fictional for entertainment value. Blue Falcons, don't go getting it twisted. This show is rated explicit and listener discretion is advised. If you aren't cool with that, hit the X and find something else. We are on all major podcast and social media platforms. The best way to get a hold of us is www.spinningourgears.com. Without any further fanfare or ado, here are your hosts, Turk, Swagger, Erica, Kenyon, and this is the Spinning Our Gears podcast. Countdown timer doesn't want to work for some reason. It just pops off after 5. Welcome back to the Spinning Our Gears podcast. I'm Turk. Today I've got Kenyon with me. We are missing Swagger and Erica. They had family and work things going on. I apparently can't think either. But Kenyon and I are going to bring you an awesome episode today. Kenyon, what's going on, man?
Hey, man, I'm good. I'm here in Florida right now, so we're just having a good time.
How hot is it down there right now?
Oh my gosh. So it's not, well, it's the humidity, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I come from more of like a where I live is more of a dry climate. So it's been up in like high 80s, low 90s. Mm-hmm. But like I sweat immediately when I walk outside. It's awful. I was working on a video actually today, and I was doing it I opened up the garage and I was just kind of doing it in the garage there, and I had to keep a towel because I was just constantly wiping myself because so I don't know if you've seen the news. Sarasota, Florida had like record rainfall. Yeah, and that's just like up like an hour north, okay, hour north of where I'm staying right now. So yeah, it's been crazy.
Dude, it's been so bad here. Like yesterday, I went to build like a planter box for our garden, all power tools. I was out there for 45 minutes, and I was drenched afterwards. Like I can't work in these conditions. So for those listening at home, I do have a fan blowing on my testicles right now. But you said the bugs are bad there too, right?
Oh man, there's so and it's not just bad like. For me, like, it's just me apparently, because like the rest of my family, they're getting bit, but like I'm having a reaction. Because it's not mosquitoes. They call I guess the locals call them no-see-ums, and they're just like these tiny little bugs. Yeah. They're almost like gnats or like biting gnats, right? But nobody else in my family is getting these like. These little, they're like mosquito bites, and they're so itchy. I'm just constantly like scratching myself. So I apologize if I'm like squirming around, because that's what I'm doing.
No, dude, the gnats here or the no-see-ums are terrible. Also, like you can't go outside without kicking them up. So I feel for you, man. It can't be good with those tropical like alien bugs.
Oh no, it's bad. It's bad.
You said things are kicking off really well on YouTube too, right?
Yeah, so I've been trying to focus and kind of broaden my scope a little bit. Obviously, like part of the reason that I do that I do like my social media content is for like an extra income. In addition, like I want to, and I've mentioned this on my platforms. I want to eventually get into more like I have this idea called blessing the peacemakers, and I want to help law enforcement families essentially. Not necessarily because people who have gotten into officer involved shootings, because that's not the only thing that brings that gets people into these. And I apologize if you can hear my kids, but
kids, dogs, it's all part of it, man.
It's not just people that have been involved in critical incidents. It's people that have had sickness come into their family, or just any kind of ailment or something like that. So eventually, I want to get into that, and I've put my feelers out there, and it hasn't gotten a good reception yet. So obviously, that's just kind of not in the cards quite yet. But eventually, that's kind of where I want to get to. I want to help other people with my reach.
You had people subscribing to your social media, right, to obtain that?
And so that's my goal, right?
Yeah.
So is that the people that are subscribing to my social media, because I don't make any money from like Instagram, or I make hardly anything from Facebook. It's like it's negligible, the kind of money that Facebook pays me to be on there. I made like $11. I'm talking like like I'm buying like a couple energy drink cans or something like that with that budget. But it's nothing that I can. That's nothing that I can use to help other people, right? It's the subscriptions to those. I'm almost to a point in YouTube where I can get that as well, the membership subscriptions. So eventually, that's my goal, to kind of is take any money that from people that are subscribing, and kind of folding it back into this cause of blessing the peacemakers.
Yeah. Now, when you say that the reception hasn't been great, do you mean just you're not getting the numbers, or people are actually like bashing you, lashing out?
Yeah, no. So I'm not getting the numbers. I'm not getting like the video that I put out.
Yeah.
Didn't get a great reach.
Gotcha.
So I got like my one of my family members subscribed. Essentially,
Okay.
that's where I'm at, right? And that's all that I've had. So it could just be the timing. That's what I may be just looking at that, but that might be something that happens a little more further down the road.
That's good. So I was concerned because like when I put out the book, it was like how dare you ask for more money when you make all this money off podcasting? And I'm like, no, we don't. Like our sponsor did our website for us. That's about it.
Yeah, I'm doing all this for free. I'm not
right.
I'm doing this for the fun of it, for the brotherhood, all that kind of stuff. So.
Well, before we kick it off, why don't you tell everyone where they can subscribe to help you out with that benefit?
Yeah, so you can subscribe on my page at Tased and Confused on Facebook, Tased and Confused on Instagram. If you want to do a one-time donation, I have Cash App listed in my like link tree, whatever it's called, and that you can find that link in my bio on most platforms. So Instagram, TikTok. I think it's on Facebook. It's like my website on Facebook. Linktree.com/tasedandconfused. And then you can make the one-time donation, or you can subscribe. Soon you'll be able to subscribe on YouTube. I have to hit 3 million views on the YouTube Shorts, and I'm like this close. I'm right there.
Well, so then what we'll do also, if you're listening, is I'll get that info and I'll throw it on spinningourgears.com. You can find it there as well. Just kind of our hub of all that information. So, and if you aren't checking out the website, we've got all of our bios. Kenyon's is on there, Erica's, Swagger's, and mine, and all sorts of other cool stuff like the book, our sponsors, and like just pictures from all the stuff that we've been doing. So definitely go check that out. Maybe hit the contact us link and let me know you're listening. That'd be pretty cool. So. Like I said, Erica and Swagger couldn't make it today. They had some prior engagements going on, so you got me and Kenyon. And before we kick it off, I do want to cover a little bit of business, I guess. First off, I have to apologize. Our last episode with Robert Greer, not Brian Greer, was an excellent episode, but for some reason our recording studio decided to be a piece of crap and cut out a bunch of the audio and video, and we had to cut that short. But we're going to have him on for a part 2. And then my foolish self, I was editing 2 episodes at once and I got names mixed up. It is Robert Greer, not Brian Greer, so I apologize for that. Just like every other episode, we are brought to you by Risen Warrior Coffee, by Millicor, and by the Thin Line Rock Station. They sent me a pretty sweet flag back there, so definitely go check those guys out as well. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, no, I did check out the Thin Line Rock Station.
Yeah.
And dude, I gotta say, I like that.
Yeah.
I think that's a really cool idea.
Just bringing all first responders together, which was really sweet.
Yeah.
I reached out to the main host, and I was like, hey, is there any way that we can do something together? And he was like, well, would you mind coming on and being a DJ on Fridays? And I was like, absolutely. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's a great opportunity.
It's been an experience for sure. But anyway, the show that we're going to bring you today is kind of one that I've been milling around for a while. I think it has the potential of being a 2-parter and having 2 different sides. What we're going to talk to you today is the things that we as first responders, particularly police officers, wish that our spouses knew, either getting into the career field or, 10, 15 years into it. And I think if it goes well, we could have that part 2, or maybe our spouses come on and they give their side of what they wish we knew. So, but I don't know. It sounds like Kenyon's got a list. I've got a list. I think we're going to go back to our roots, and we're going to do a little round robin here between the 2 of us. We're just going to kick it off, give point by point, and we'll talk about it if that's cool with you, Kenyon.
Yeah, that works for me.
So my first one was what I wish the spouses knew is that we don't like being away as often as we are. Usually there's some sort of an end goal, or we're being forced to do it. We might not vocalize that as much, but we definitely don't like being away from you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great way of kind of putting it. One of the things that I think we all kind of struggle with that is that we don't want to be away. We don't want to be using that time. There are things we would much rather be doing, right, than working extra, or I don't want to be stuck after my shift ends, on a DUI investigation that's gonna take at least 4 hours,
right,
to put everything together into something that is going to do well in court, right? Because I would much rather just do the old school, grab the guy's keys, toss them on the side of the road, and just be like, get out of here. I would much rather go home to my family, go sleep in my bed,
yeah,
than deal with this dude who's just gonna be incoherently chewing me out on the side of the road because I caught him doing something that he shouldn't be doing.
Right. Or like that the dreaded force list, which just happened to me today, where it's like, hey, you're up next. We have the overtime. We're a 24/7 operation. You're gonna be here. Don't get me wrong. We can use the money. We like the money, but the time away absolutely sucks, and it's not what we're looking for.
Yeah, no. I mean, if you're thinking that we just want to be working all the time, no, that's not the case. I mean, we're people just like everybody else. Nobody. I don't know anybody in retail who's chomping at the bit to work overtime hours, right? It's a necessary evil sometimes. I've pulled overtime. When I was working with the sheriff's office, I went and did 12-hour overtime shifts at the jail, and it was terrible. I was rolling in the dough.
Yeah,
but it was awful.
Well, and that's part of it too, because there's some guys out there that's all they see are those dollar signs, and then before you know it, they've worked hundreds of hours of overtime in a year, and they're not at home getting to see that family, which
Yeah.
behind it, though, they're doing it for a reason, but it's not because they want to be away. It's because they got a little bit jaded.
Right. And I think that we see a little bit too, there's a little bit of the bravado with some guys that you don't want it to come across like you don't want to be there, or like we're not going to act. We're not going to act like we don't want to be there, right? We're going to act like that's all we want to do. Like there's nowhere we'd rather be, because it's good. It's a good reflection on us professionally.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's good for our supervisors to see. But our supervisors, I mean, they know. Any supervisor knows, because they've been there too.
Yeah.
That you put on a face because you have to. It's not because everyone wants to be there all the time, 100%, 24/7. I'm, forget 40 hours, I'm pulling 80.
Right.
Right.
Well, and with that bravado, like, your guys have to know that you're there with them to have their back, right? Like,
yes,
you might not want to be there, but you're gonna be there. You're gonna step up and you're gonna help them out.
Yeah, you're gonna be dragging your feet, but you're not gonna let it show, because you can't.
Right. What's your first one?
So, my first one, and let me pull it up so I can read off my list. Man. So I tend to get, you'll have to forgive me. I tend to go on the deep side.
We've got some there.
I like start reflecting, and I'm like, what's, I can't go like surface level. I gotta go, something that not, because I'm expecting 4 of us to be here. I don't want to have a list. I don't want to have a list of things that, oh man, he took mine. Oh, she took mine. All of my ideas are gone. So my first thing is that I was going to change as a person. Just inherently, I was going to change, and there were going to be some good things. There were going to be some bad things, but it necessarily, you necessarily have to change. I didn't come from a strong law enforcement background. My uncle was a deputy in Los Angeles County, but we didn't live near him. I didn't see him but like maybe once a year, and I really didn't ask him a whole lot about his career. It wasn't until I got into law enforcement that I even found out very much about his career.
Yeah.
And that's fine, but like I apologize for I'm got the bug bites. They're getting to me.
It's the meth, but that's fine.
It's the meth. Oh no,
it's
I'm
the Florida
serious.
meth, which is really good.
Like some of them are starting to scab over, and I'm like, I'm gonna look like a meth addict by the end of it. Although I have more weight on me than than your typical meth addict. But just like the hypervigilance,
yeah,
the traumatic incidents that you see through, that you go through, and that you vicariously go through from what you hear about in your training, the things that your buddies go through, mm-hmm. the things that you see on body cam video from other agencies. It's coming down in the news all the time. I get I'm subscribed to policeone.com, their email updates, and so like I swear to you, man, every day or every other day, the email that I get out, their newsletter is like critical incident this, officer involved shooting this, officer is stabbed, this and that, and it takes a mental toll.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we talk about how you have to be all in, and you have to remember that this, when you're doing this, it's either a third to a half of your life, right? With all that overtime, mm-hmm. you're not getting a third, you're getting a half. But it starts mm-hmm. off when you're in the academy, and they start trying to drill that into you and drill that mindset. Well, then when you spend 5, 10, 15 years on the job where you're spending 50, 60% of your time doing the job, it eats away at you little bit by little bit and chips away at you little bit by little bit to the point where you don't realize that you're changing. The people outside of you do.
Yeah, definitely. I think, and that's reflected in my personal relationship, like my relationship with my wife. A lot of times, when I come home, I think one of my kids is trying to slide something under the door here. I'm getting a note passed to me, in class. Sorry. I lost my train of thought now.
What's going on, everybody? Sorry to take a break from the show, but I was wondering, are you looking for some coffee to start off your day right? Maybe some protein to mix into that coffee or after your pre-workout? Are you looking for an awesome radio station to listen to when you're not listening to this podcast? Then I've got some places for you to check out. The first being RisenWarriorCoffee.com. You know them. You love them just like we do. They've been with us since the beginning. They've got all sorts of amazing flavors and some merch of their own to check out. www.RisenWarriorCoffee.com. Use the code Turk and Swagger at checkout for 10% off your first order. Then go to Millicor.com. If you go through SpinningOurGears.com first, you can click our merch website, our sponsor website. That'll get you to Millicor. You'll have a discount code from us as well there. And then, when you're done listening to this episode, go to the Thin Line Rock Station. That's right, that flag back there. Go to the Thin Line Rock Station. They've got all sorts of good music all week long. You can listen to me on Fridays at 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 Central. It'll be a good time. All right, back to the show.
Train of thought now. My relationships, right? So, things have changed, and my wife has come to me sometimes and been like, you feel like it feels like you're checked out, like you're looking for distractions, and I'll bury myself into a task or my phone or a TV or something like that, or I'll just like zone out.
Yeah,
I'll start thinking about stuff mid-conversation, and I don't mean to, but I'll have a thought, and it'll start it'll just get that tangent, and I'll have a squirrel moment where I'm like, all of a sudden I realize I'm not listening to what's going on in the moment.
Yeah,
and it gets to that. It's kind of hard staying present sometimes.
well, and I've said it for a long time. I don't know if it's the personality going into the job or the job itself, but I think 90% of law enforcement has some form of ADD or ADHD because of that. Mm-hmm. And it kind of hits on one of the other things I was going to talk about, that we check out, but it's not necessarily because we don't want to be there. It's because we're making a million critical decisions a day, or our mind is racing 100 miles an hour for that 8 to 12 hours a day that we're on the shift. So when we get home, we get to our safe space, the brain just kind of shuts off.
Mm-hmm. And I think, I'm going to have to remember off the top of my head that the book, I think it's Emotional Support for Law Enforcement, is a great it's a great tool for understanding that. It kind of cracks it open, and it lets you see it kind of from the inside. In a way that helps you to understand yourself, your own thoughts, and what's going through. And so it's a tool for spouses too, for families. Like if you got kids that my kids are young. They're 5 and 3 right now, so they're not going to be reading that. We're reading Thomas the Train books and little things about we watched Finding Nemo today, but right. But like teenagers and kids that are really affected by that kind of stuff, it's a great tool to help everyone to kind of understand, and we're trying to work. My wife and I, we're trying to work through these things and trying to figure out ways that we can work around it if we can't go through it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and so another one that comes up with just your one topic was I would love for my spouse to know to not be quiet and let me know when I'm screwing up or when I've changed or when they're struggling. I think a lot of spouses kind of get the impression that because our job is so dangerous, they have to kind of just be supportive at home. And they're the ones that know us better than anybody else. So yeah, you've got to speak up. You've got to tell us when we're off, so that we can fix that and not go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I want to know, right? Like, and if you're not telling me, I'm not going to know, because that's not what I'm thinking about. You know, my biggest concerns and what I'm typically thinking about is what I am doing and what I could be doing more to support my family, to, you know, be a better provider, to, you know, and so and I think that's a part of it too. Like, I can't be better if I'm not aware of my shortcomings, where, you know, where I'm falling short, where I can improve. And I don't always want to hear it. I don't always, you know, I don't always have good reception to it. You know, that's just kind of, and maybe it's my nature. I'm sure other people, you know, take constructive criticism a little bit better. I mean, or it could be, you know, sometimes it's not presented in the correct form, but you know, I think that if you can get on the same page, I'd rather hear it than not.
Yeah, and it's a definite balance, because like, we don't want to hear we're a piece of shit unless we're being a piece of shit. Then absolutely tell us that. But like, you know, you have to also be kind of direct about it, because some of those little minor comments just go, we're dense, we're thick. It goes in one ear and out the other for sure.
Yeah, definitely that.
So my next one was kind of along the lines of, like, you know, shutting down and things like that when you get home. But understand that we have probably had the conversation that you want us to have 100 times. We just forgot to tell you about it. and what I mean by that is, you know, you're driving around by yourself in a patrol car, or you're behind a desk doing detective work by yourself for, like I said, 8, 10, 12 hours. Your mind's going all different places, especially with that ADHD, and you've probably had that conversation. Like, for example, sergeant opening is coming up. You've thought about the pros and the cons and the money and the hours and the going back to overnights, but what it could mean to you and your family and how you could advance throughout your career if you do it at the right time. You just have had that conversation, and you forget to tell your spouse when you get home.
Yeah, I think, you know, I've wondered if you can, like, I've truly wondered if you can, like, develop ADHD from not having it. Like,
I think so.
You know what I mean?
Really do. I think so.
Because I swear to you, I have felt more on the ADHD. I guess I identify with the characteristics of ADHD more and more as I go about this, because, like, what you said is true, because while you were having that conversation with yourself, you are also having to pay attention. If you're in a patrol car, you're having to pay attention to where you're going. Mm-hmm. If you're going to a call, mm-hmm. If you're not, you have to be paying attention to the radio traffic to see if they're calling you. You're paying attention to what your partners on your, you know, in their beats are doing, calls that are on the screen, mm-hmm. things that are going on around you, all while you're having this conversation in your head. Yeah, it is a million things going on all at the same time. And when you're a detective, you just sit in your desk and you eat, right?
100%. Yeah. I mean, look at me. Absolutely. That's all I do.
I'm just kidding. But
there's a reason the donuts don't make it to overnights.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I switched to the swing shift, and we would have crumbs left at the end. But no, like, you know, the detectives too. I've done. You know, I've worked with some of the detectives, and I've done some of the, you know, the paperwork that you got to do, writing search warrants, writing cell phone warrants, and that kind of stuff. You've got your own Excel spreadsheet of all of your cases that you're working on, all at the same time. Everything's going on, and you might be waiting for one thing, while you've written a search warrant that you're waiting on results for that, and then you get you've got emails, a list of emails with correspondence from suspects, victims, all kinds of stuff. You got voicemails waiting for you. I mean, it's the same thing. It's just in a different format.
Yeah. I should absolutely own stock in Post-it notes because my office is littered with those damn things.
So, like, it's... I don't know how, like... I don't know that we're necessarily meant, like, as like, legitimately, as human beings, to have our attention in so many places.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, like, if you think about it, some people can live by themselves, completely be loners, and be fine with it. But studies have shown the majority of people that if they go into a loner state, they have a greater possibility of developing things like depression and anxiety and things like that. So I would have to imagine things like not PTSD, ADHD could very absolutely be acquired as opposed to born. I'm sure people are born with it, but it's got to be acquired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Add to that all the stimulation that we have nowadays. The dopamine hits of social media.
Tased and Confused on TikTok.
Tased and Confused. I mean, all that you can scroll through all of my videos and all of that dopamine, right? I find it funny sometimes. My kind of like how some of my personal views kind of clash with some of the things that I honestly that I do. Like we don't let our kids get on like phones with few exceptions. Like when we do road trips or when we go on like vacation, if we're going on an airplane, they can play on their phone. If we're going on a long drive in the car, they can play on a phone. Otherwise, they have a set amount of like TV time. They have their show time, and that's all kind of all the screen time that they get. And we're like, we talk about we're not going to let them have phones until they are, maybe 15, 16, and even then it's going to be like the dumb phone, right?
Yeah.
So
if those are even still around,
they're going to be able to, if they're even still around. But something that's only going to allow them to like text or call or just basic communication.
Yeah.
Because I think our brains are so susceptible to that kind of stuff, and the youth are so malleable in that way.
Yeah.
And then I go on TikTok and I make these videos that
trying to corrupt the youth,
trying to corrupt everyone. Oh no, knocked over your camera.
It is a complete mess over here. Welcome to my life. Give me your next one, Kenyon.
All right, let me pull it up. I got my list here. So the next one is it was kind of along the lines of I guess it's kind of what you said. It was that I was going to be gone a lot.
Yeah.
And I guess the way that I look at it in this, when I was thinking about this, is that it seems like we are gone more than like your regular work week, and I don't know why that is, and it might be just because of the nature of what we do. My wife talks about how every time I'm out on a shift, it seems like forever.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of goes along the lines of because you're always afraid of getting that call.
Mm-hmm.
As a spouse, right? You're afraid of getting that call, and excuse me, I get, I find comfort in the statistics that I have an 81% chance of surviving if I get shot by a handgun. Odds are, odds are if I'm in an officer involved shooting, I'm gonna survive. That's the odds, right? But she doesn't want she doesn't want me getting shot at all,
Right.
of course.
Right.
And I don't. I like the number of holes that are in me right now. I don't want any more.
Yeah.
And but that's so I think that I might, if I were to go back to, I'd rephrase it to see it's going to seem like I'm gone a lot longer than I actually am.
Yeah. Just that fear and that adrenaline is definitely part of it. I think also the nature of the beast, like the fact that we can get called away even on our time off at any point. And then for the most part, for like your first, 10, 15 years, you're going to be either on that evening swing shift or the overnight shift where your hours don't coincide with what normal life is. And so, especially if you're on that evening shift, you can't do much throughout the day because you have to work that day. So it's going to seem like you're gone even when you're already there. Hey, you. That's right. You looking at me, looking back at you through the little lens there. Or if you're not watching the podcast, if you're listening at home, are you looking for a cool t-shirt? Maybe a t-shirt to rep your favorite podcast, the Spinning Our Gears podcast? The one that I'm wearing right now. Do you want a cool t-shirt like that? Or maybe a cool vinyl decal to put in your car or your water bottle or wherever you want to stick it. That sounded wrong. Wherever you want to put that sticker. Do you want something cool like that? Then go to www.spinningourgears.com and click the merch link, the Spinning Our Gears gear link. That's where you find an awesome t-shirt just like this, as well as some vinyl decals and all sorts of cool stuff. You can also find the book, Imposters on the Throne, Warriors in the Shadows. You can find that at www.spinningourgears.com as well. Go, click that link, get some cool gear. You can listen to the podcast while you're doing it. Go get yourself some cool merch. All right, back to the show.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it effectively the block that you are scheduled for is dedicated to your work.
Mm-hmm.
It's your time. Like that it is what it is. But because I get into the mentality and it's hard to get out too, even during my work week when I get home. Right now I'm on the swing shift, so I get home around 2:00. Or after whatever, I get off shift at 2:00, and then I go home and go to bed, and I'm up at 10.
Yeah.
But then the rest of my day, I am thinking about going back to work. I'm prepping in my head to go back into work.
Yeah.
Right. And just I want to be there. I want to be present. I'm doing my best to be that way. But I think that it's just a necessarily. Florida heat's getting to me, man. You necessarily have to be in that mentality, because if you're not, you may fall out of it. I've come on, I've gone on shifts. Usually it's after like a long weekend or something, or a vacation where you get back on and you're just off.
Yeah.
Your radio traffic, you're stumbling with your traffic stops, or maybe you forget. We have a specific way that you call out, license plate, location, and description of vehicle, and maybe you mix up the order, or what happens to me a lot is I forget to ask or confirm people's addresses.
Sure.
Like, on their, when I'm out on a call or something, I check their ID, I'm like confirming the address with them, and I'll just forget and I'll skip that.
Yeah.
You just have off days, but like I want to mitigate that by keeping my mindset, my frame of mind in that work mode.
Yeah, like one of the things I've noticed, especially being in the bureau, is that I almost have that radio anxiety, like you did as a rookie, because I don't use the radio that often. So now I'm like, and stumbling over my words, and I'm afraid everyone's going to make fun of me. But I came up with one in my head while you were talking about your stuff. Yeah, we don't tell our spouses that there's an 80% chance that we're going to make it in an officer-involved shooting. We also don't tell them that, like, yeah, there's that guy, and we harp on that guy. But for those of us who aren't, we take our training and our tactics seriously because we're looking out for ourselves and the people beside us. So we've played out those officer-involved shootings in our heads probably 1,000 times so that we can make it home at night.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So, let's see. What's the next one I have? Well, obviously, with all those conversations that we have, one of them is we're always thinking about you guys when we're at work. Like, everything that I do has something to do with the kids or with the wife, or I'm constantly thinking about how I can make things better for them, whether it be pick up that overtime shift, or whether it be write out a coaching schedule for baseball over the weekend, or, whatever it might be.
Mm.
What you got?
I'm sorry. I think my connection skipped out on you a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Could you? Yeah. I apologize. We've been full of technical difficulties.
That's all right. It wouldn't be spinning our gears without it.
That's true.
What I just said was that we're always thinking about the family when we're at work, amongst all those conversations in our head. Like, anything that we do or that we plan to do has got them at the forefront.
Yeah. I think that's reflective in just all of the decisions that we make. I mean, I know there's guys that have passed up promotion opportunities their entire career because of their family issues, like their at home needs, right? They can't, for whatever reason, they can't afford to go back to like a midnight shift or something, or something like that. And I saw this heartbreaking body cam call. All the camera was like it was a cruiser going code 3, and it was radio traffic, but it was an officer involved shooting. And the guy, his last words over the radio were, "Tell my family I love them." I mean, it's for all of the hate, and I see a lot of it on putting out my social media content. I'm pro cop. All of my stuff's pro cop, pro law enforcement, and I get all the trolls that are like, "Oh, 40, the 40%." And for those who don't know, the 40% they're referring to is this is an old antiquated study that was not that truthfully there was like the basis for it was not to kind of the specs of of an actual scientific study. Right. It was way too vague. They asked a bunch of people, law enforcement families, if there was any sort of like domestic violence at home, and they said that there was 40% of respondents said that there was some sort of like aggression. It was aggression. That's what they used.
And one of the things they forgot to ask was which way the aggression was going. I think they found out that it was like 50-50 the spouse and the first responder.
Yes. So the truth is that the rates of domestic violence are the same, if not lower, in law enforcement. It's just everyone, for some reason, they cling on to this statistic. But I get that. I get so many of these people, and it makes me upset. Yeah. Because I have honestly never seen so many people who are so family focused in the profession. Yeah. And you do hear about those few people that are the exceptions, right? We have the jokes that, the officers sleep with the dispatchers and with the nurses and that kind of stuff. And that stuff happens, right? You're going to get the New York lieutenant who gets a lap dance from the rookie, because that's just that stuff just happens in the real world. Right. But personally, the people that I know are so dedicated to their family. And my agency, my department, it encouraged me to, I'm on FMLA right now for my wife, for her health. You know, they encouraged me to do this, to take time for my family, because they said your family's number one. You got to take care of them. They said, we'll be here when you get back. We want to support you in doing that. And so you're absolutely right in that. I mean, golly, there's been no more kind of demographic that I've seen that cares more about family than the fellow law enforcement officers that I work with.
Yeah, 100%. I got to tell you, man, between your stuff and my stuff, my list is already expired. That's what happens on this show. We don't. It happened with me and Swagger in the first season. We would make lists and not talk about it, and we would expunge it. So if you have anything else, absolutely, let's drop it.
Man, I can get long-winded. I realized in these podcast episodes that I can really go. So you got to, if I'm going too long, you got to stop me.
Not at all.
So I'll kind of sum up kind of my other points that I had. That this is a career that I get out. You get out what you put into it, and that's true of what. With your family. My wife has sometimes said, she doesn't feel like, I guess included a lot with like some of the other families in the department. Mm-hmm. But truthfully, it's because we haven't put out a lot of that, or we haven't put a lot of energy into that.
Yeah,
we haven't kind of necessarily had to have been secluded a little bit because my wife has some health issues. We also have some like differences, just kind of like I guess maybe you call them cultural differences, but a lot of times like we don't drink alcohol.
Same here.
A lot of what the other guys are doing when they're wanting to get together. They're having like a poker night, or they're going to a bar, or they're going to these places. And like my wife has principally said, I'm not going to bars. Yeah. Like she just, I'm not doing it. Like we both have alcoholism in our family. Mm-hmm. Right. And so we've both kind of, we want to stay away from that.
Yeah.
Right. She's had, I won't get it. I don't need to get into it.
No, I got you.
I'll get long-winded again.
Well, but, I think a lot of that man, like, 15, 20 years ago, it was the cops' families hanging out outside of work and building that camaraderie. And it's just kind of shifted where it's like, man, my time off is for my family. I'm going home and hanging out with them. And there isn't that big combination. Now, I will say, like, my wife, when I switched agencies, one of her biggest fears was like, she told me, yeah, I didn't hang out with those people a whole lot, but I knew them and I knew their stories, and now you're going somewhere else that I don't know any of those people. So, I totally get where you're coming from there.
Yeah, and we find the social aspect in different ways. We're Christian. We're Christian. We go to church regularly. Excuse me. And so we've started hanging out with friends that we've made. From going to church, and from people that we've met through other ways, and I think that that's good in some ways, because one thing that you don't want to do is to get so entrenched in policing, in law enforcement culture, that's all you do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I like to step away from that. I like to get. It feels like a breath of fresh air when I can move away. I can talk to other people who are not, that's not all that they talk about, because it becomes everything that you talk about. Because when you're hanging out with your work buddies, that's what you're gonna talk about. That
talk
stuff,
shop, yeah,
right? Yeah, you're gonna talk shop.
Yeah.
So I prefer spending most of my time socializing with people that I don't work with. I love the people that I work with. I have a good time when I'm working. But I'm perfectly fine keeping that there.
Yeah. That's one thing, admittedly, I have not done the greatest. I don't think I've branched out quite as much to people who aren't in the career field. Something I definitely got to work on, because you're right. The studies have shown, like, you can't be all about it all the time, especially once you retire, because it's not going to necessarily be there for you when you do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, there's good and there's bad about it, because I mean, I'm not saying that there's, that you shouldn't, because you should have friends.
Yeah.
Like, I would rather you have friends and you're spending time with those friends in the force.
Yeah.
Rather than having no friends at all.
Right.
Spending no time, because like you need that social activity. Like, it's a lot like the military. We went to a military history museum out here, and I mean, it's mostly volunteer staffed, which is really cool. But like, you got all these guys, they're super old now. They're all former, they're combat veterans. They're former military, and they've got all of their stories, and they get together and they do their, they do their, I guess they have like these vet get-togethers where they go, they pick a place like every week, and then they go and hang out and stuff. And so like, there's good about it, but there's also good in stepping away from it and taking a break.
Yeah, for sure.
That's I don't know. I kind of got off of my.
No.
You put in, or you get in what you put. You get out what you put in. My goodness, I am sorry. I am ruining your podcast.
No, man. One, it's our podcast, and two, you're not ruining anything because we're hitting the topics.
That's true. I'm a co-host.
Man, we were nervous at first. Not sure if only having two of us we would have the content to do an episode, but we've made it, man. I think we did really well.
We had plenty and then some.
I love it. I do. I will just say thank you all for listening to the show. I hope you guys took something out of it. Please go to the website, spinningourgears.com, and let us know, do you want to see that part 2 with our family side of it or not? And then check out all the other cool stuff we got going on there. But, Kenyon, can you let them know one more time where they can find you at?
Yeah, basically all platforms, Tased and Confused. No spaces or underscores or anything. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok.
And Spinning Our Gears.
And Spinning Our Gears, yes.
He is a co-host.
I am.
All right,
my
guys.
bio's on the website.
And it's a good bio, too, if I do say so myself. All right, guys. I want to thank you again for tuning in. Please stay safe. We'll get through this together.